Welcome to the 33rd week of this year's In Times Like These recap. Now, let's get into this. Starting with Wanda Mitchell, who pretends to be shocked when her husband Udell informs her that Owen Grant will be the prosecutor on their daughter Yvette's case. As soon as Udell tells Wanda that he warned her against the friendship to begin with, she goes on to ask Udell if he's blaming her for Owen prosecuting their daughter. Udell assures Wanda that he's not blaming her for anything, but honestly worries that Owen might go after Yvette hard, since Owen figured out that Yvette lied. Once Wanda is able to calm down, she has a feeling that there's a possibility Owen might go easy on her. As soon as Udell asks Wanda how she's so sure, she flashes back to Owen trying to assure her. Wanda goes on to tell her husband how she just has a feeling, reminding Udell that she and Owen wouldn't have been close if she and Udell didn't have their issues earlier on in the year. Udell fears that Owen might have felt taken advantage of, worrying that Yvette might suffer because of that. Wanda makes it known that she didn't take advantage of Owen, stating how she truly cared about him. Since the two of them are no longer friends, Udell fears that it might not be clear to Owen, promising that he won't let Owen win this case. Max Russo arrives at his older brother Ben's office, informing him about his kiss with Vanessa, but informs his brother that Vanessa only wants to be friends with him. Ben suggests that he have a serious conversation with Vanessa about how they truly feel about one another. The response which Max gives is that Vanessa might not even feel the same way, feeling like she wouldn't have told him to forget about the kiss. He goes on to tell Ben that he shouldn't be giving relationship advice. Immediately, Max realizes how hurtful his words were, apologizing to his older brother. Ben admits that his own love life is a mess, but encourages Max not to lose his chance at happiness. Zeke Franklin is caught watching X-rated videos by his older sister Quinlan, certain that her younger brother has an addiction. He goes on to question if she'll run and tell Nichelle. Quinlan reminds Zeke that she never told Nichelle about his problem, but Zeke only gets annoyed that she keeps calling it a problem, asking Quinlan to focus on her own relationship. The response Quinlan gives is that she's tired of Zeke denying that it is a problem, asking Zeke if he wants to end up like her with her issue with Ben, or be a lonely man like his father. Zeke states that he doesn't plan to walk out on Nichelle like how his father walked out on him. As for Quinlan, she tells Zeke that he pretty much is walking out on her since he refuses to get help. The response Zeke gives is that he doesn't know of a rehab for watching X-rated videos. Quinlan tells her brother that there are tons of resources to help him out, stating that he doesn't have to be fully healed in a day, but that Nichelle wants to make sure that he's taking the step to get help, asking if he loves getting pleasure and his pride more than Nichelle. Zeke tells Quinlan how Nichelle is the best thing to ever happen ever since their mother ended up in prison. Upon hearing Zeke's response, Quinlan encourages her brother to do whatever it takes to keep Nichelle. Just as Vivian Jones gets a call from her mother, she gets a shocking visit from Clarice Russo, asking Vivian why she never told her that her last name was Jones. Remaining unfazed, Vivian asks what her last name has to do with anything. Clarice tells Vivian how she knew someone by the last name Jones, proceeding to ask Vivian who her parents are. Vivian lies about her parentage, then Clarice walks off. Once Clarice is gone, Vivian tells herself how Clarice doesn't know who she's messing with. At Russo Jewelers, Vivian informs Lorenzo Russo that his wife Clarice stopped by because she was troubled that her last name is Jones. He promises to have a conversation with Clarice. Finnegan Burke meets with his ex-wife, Dr. Terry Murphy, informing her that the Dorvals have filed a restraining order against Kiev, which Terry has no issue with. Finnegan questions if she doesn't notice that it's possibly her fault that Kiev ended up the way he did, since she wasn't an affectionate mother. Offended, Terry demands that Finnegan leave her office. While Kiev is in his room, he writes on the incel form how upset he is that Vanessa has filed a restraining order against him, threatening to harm Max. Alan Russo visits his mother Harley Drake's hotel room at Theodosius Palace. She asks her son if he's willing to stay with Terry after Terry kicked Kiev out. Alan tells his mother that he stands by Terry's decision, feeling like if Finnegan wasn't too busy with Heidi and Harley and actually was a good husband, then he would have realized that he had a psychopath for a son. This response angers Harley, questioning if that's his way of blaming her for Kiev's antics, reminding him that Alan is her responsibility, not Kiev. Harley points out that if Alan wasn't sleeping with Terry, then Terry could have noticed something was wrong with Kiev as well. Pacho Torres approaches Quinlan Franklin, asking if she's ready to share her side of the story regarding her affair with Gianni. Since she signed the contract, she tells Pacho that she'll have no choice but to be ready. Heidi Russo meets with her son Ben in his office, asking him if he'll be watching Quinlan's news segment. Ben claims that he won't. Then Heidi promises to be someone Ben can find comfort in no matter what the outcome of Quinlan's confession will be. Once she leaves, Ben decides to watch the news program as Quinlan begins to speak about her affair with Gianni. Quinlan goes on to explain that her affair with Gianni is her biggest shame, but fears that it might have cost her true love. Ending the program, Quinlan points out that she never realized what true love was until she got with Ben, hoping that he could overlook her past and spend the rest of her life with the greatest man she has ever known. Ben arrives at Quinlan's apartment, informing her that he watched her news segment, explaining that he felt that she was genuine when she told the entire world how much she loved him. Quinlan bears her heart and soul to Ben, explaining that she thought she lost everything when he found out about Gianni, explaining that she felt she lost a part of her, and expresses how much she fears losing him again. Ben kisses Quinlan, apologizing for shaming her for actions that no longer matter in the present, wanting to work things out. Quinlan proceeds to kiss Ben, then the two sleep together. When Isabel Torres asks Isidore Russo why he's at Theodosius Palace, Isidore explains that he stopped by to apologize for his mother's actions. Isabel tells Isidore that she tries not to let Clarice get to her when she always thinks of what she robbed them both of. Isidore states that he admits he would have loved to have known their child, but reminds her that they still have children of their own. Despite that, Isabel still hasn't gotten over the fact that she could have had one more child to love on just to keep her ex-husband Devante happy, but will have to live with that decision for as long as she lives. Isidore feels like he bears responsibility, too. Isabel reminds Isidore that terminating her pregnancy was her choice alone, but Isidore states how he wishes he wouldn't have let Isabel go so easily. Isidore feels like if he was only honest with his feelings, then they would have gotten the chance to know their child. Isabel tells Isidore that there's no reason to think about making different choices or what could have been, but to accept the fact that their child will never have a place in their beloved families. At the Russo estate, Lorenzo tells Clarice that he knows she confronted Vivian at her apartment, wondering why she kept that to herself. He goes on to ask his wife what connection she felt Vivian had with Shirley Jones. The answer which Clarice gives is that she's unsure, since they haven't seen Shirley since she abruptly left all of those years ago. She goes on to state that Vivian shares no relation, asking Lorenzo to drop it. Lorenzo doesn't want to drop it, stating that Jones is a common name, asking Clarice for the truth. When she asks Lorenzo what truth he's looking for, he questions if there's something about Shirley that she wants to speak with him about. Since they haven't seen or heard from Shirley in years, Clarice decides that they should drop it. Once Lorenzo walks off, Clarice leaves a message for Benedict, asking him to look into Vivian Jones's background. When Pacho arrives at Vivian's apartment, she informs her lover that Clarice is getting suspicious and confronted her. Once Pacho questions if she feels like Clarice bought the story she made up, Vivian states how unsure she is, then states how she told Lorenzo. Upon hearing this, Pacho wonders if that was a good idea. Vivian felt like that was the best option, feeling that once Lorenzo speaks with Clarice, then they'll both be less suspicious of her. As for Pacho, He wonders if mentioning the confrontation to Lorenzo would only make him more suspicious. Since Clarice has no proof that she's Lorenzo's daughter, then she won't risk telling him of her suspicions after she hid her from the Russos for her entire life. Regardless, Pacho worries that Clarice might still have her eye on her. Even if that's the case, Vivian feels like she might have Clarice exactly where she wants her if Lorenzo is upset by her present actions. While at Theodosius' palace, Finnegan makes another request for his lover Harley Drake to move in with him. She responds by stating that it's not the best time to move in with Finnegan since she's going to be defending Kiev in court. As for Finnegan, he feels like Kiev could use structure, understanding that Harley isn't Kiev's mother, but feels like Kiev could see how it's like to have a healthy relationship. Harley tells Finnegan that she can't move in with the way things are between her and Alan. Finnegan feels like Alan needs to accept that the two of them are together. Even though that's the case, Harley states that Alan won't accept it, especially at the moment. This confuses Finnegan, asking his lover for specifics. Harley tries to leave it alone, but Finnegan promises to confront Alan himself. Harley warns Finnegan that if he confronts Alan, then Alan won't be able to control himself and tell him something he wouldn't like. Finnegan questions what it would be. Even though Harley tries to brush it off, Finnegan pushes for an answer. Reluctantly, Harley reveals that Alan and Terry are having an affair. At the Dorval estate, Vanessa informs Max that her family filed a restraining order against Kiev, but Vanessa adds that Finnegan is trying to fight it so that Kiev could stay in school. She goes on to express how fearful she is to start the school year, but Max promises to protect Vanessa, expounding on how much he cares for her. Zeke arrives at Theodosius' palace, admitting to being addicted to watch X-rated content. This causes Nichelle to question what made him finally come to his senses. He admits that he realized that he was giving more of his time to the X-rated videos rather than the person he loves most in this world. Nichelle goes on to ask why Zeke wouldn't agree when she pointed out his problem to him. He admits to being scared. When Nichelle asks Zeke what he was afraid of, he answers that he felt like if he admitted to being an addict, then she would have left him. Nichelle reminds Zeke that she promised to stand by his side, questioning why he would ever doubt her. The response Zeke gives is that it wasn't that he doubted Nichelle, but that she wouldn't know what she was getting herself into if she would stand beside someone who had an addiction like he did. He adds that since his parents left him, he didn't want to risk losing Nichelle either. Nichelle assures Zeke that she's nothing like his parents, promising to stand by his side and help him fight his addictions. At Vivian's apartment, Ben confronts Vivian, explaining that he knows she lied to his grandmother Clarice, and that Vivian's mother was the former Russo cook, Shirley Jones. Knowing that she can't deny it, Vivian confesses. When Ben questions why she lied, Vivian reveals to Ben that her mother Shirley slept with Ben's grandfather Lorenzo. Ben is in disbelief, but Vivian goes on to inform him that Clarice exiled Vivian's mother out of Valley Park after discovering that Lorenzo got Shirley pregnant. Welcome to the 34th week of this year's In Times Like These recap. Now, let's get into this. Starting with Dr. Terry Murphy, who is confronted by her ex-husband Finnegan Burke and his lover Harley Drake, revealing Finnegan knows about Terry's affair with Harley's son Alan. Finnegan scolds Terry, threatening to tell Quinlan Franklin about the affair, exposing it publicly, feeling like she neglected Kiev, allowing their son to make a mess of his life. Kiev Burke confronts Yvette Mitchell at the mall, startling her with his presence. Yvette demands to know why he's in public after being outed as Vanessa's stalker. Kiev downplays the accusations, but Yvette reminds him of the night he nearly forced himself on her. He asks Yvette to keep quiet about seeing him and to ensure Zeke stays silent about what happened at the party. Yvette agrees, but is left shaken and disturbed after Kiev leaves, wishing her luck in court. At the Dorval estate, Max Russo confesses his deep feelings for Vanessa Dorval, who questions if their friendship was genuine. Vanessa is shocked and upset. especially after learning that Max could have manipulated her emotions to expose Kiev as her stalker. Despite Max's reassurances, Vanessa is angered and demands that he leave her house. Ben Russo stands in Vivian Jones' apartment, shocked that she is the daughter of his grandfather Lorenzo, making Vivian his aunt. He questions why she hasn't told Lorenzo, but Vivian fears his reaction. Ben assures Vivian that Lorenzo would welcome her, given the loss of Lorenzo's daughter Elvira, and promises to keep her secret from Clarice. When Ben offers Vivian half of his shares in the family company, she hesitates, but ultimately accepts, feeling guilty for taking them, even though she still plans to take over Russo Jewelers. At Vivian's apartment, she informs her lover Pacho Torres that Ben knows her true identity after Clarice's suspicions led him to investigate. While Ben agreed to keep silent and offered her shares in Russo Jewelers out of guilt, Vivian is conflicted. Though Pacho praises her for securing the shares, Vivian is uneasy, having wanted to target Clarice's shares first. She reveals that Ben might be her only ally in the family, but she hesitates to trust him fully, planning to keep him close to protect her real intentions. Meeting with his grandmother Clarice at the Russo estate, he lies, assuring her that Vivian's background checks out, even though Clarice remains suspicious. When Ben presses her about why she's so concerned with Vivian's possible connection to Shirley, Clarice dodges, saying some questions are better left unanswered. Ben warns her that secrets might backfire and leaves the conversation. JJ Dorval notices his older sister Vanessa's moodiness and asks if she's worried the restraining order against Kiev won't go through. Vanessa tries to brush it off, but they discuss her fears. JJ feels guilty for not seeing Kiev's true nature earlier, but Vanessa reassures him. She admits she's not ready to face Kiev in court, feeling scared and pathetic. JJ encourages her to be brave, while their mother, Shelley, walks in, promising that the restraining order will be granted. Terry tells her younger lover, Alan Russo, that Alan's mother, Harley, revealed their affair to Finnegan, who now threatens to use it against her. Alan questions Finnegan's motives, but Terry explains that Finnegan is bitter about her cutting Kiev out of her life. Despite Alan's suggestions to resolve things, Terry insists they end the affair to avoid a scandal, fearing the potential reaction from Alan's father, Isidore. Though Alan promises protection, Terry refuses to go public, and Alan reluctantly agrees, but vows not to let Finnegan tear them apart. Alan confronts his mother, Harley, demanding she stop Finnegan from interfering in his affair with Terry, warning his mother he'll cut ties if Finnegan exposes the affair. Harley pleads with Alan not to be manipulated by Terry, insisting she'll always be there for him. At the Dorval estate, Yulisa Torres asks her best friend Vanessa if she's ready to face Kiev in court for the restraining order. Vanessa admits her fear, unsure of what Kiev might do regardless of the outcome. Though Yulisa tries to reassure her, Vanessa worries that Kiev's unpredictability outweighs any legal restrictions. When Yulisa mentions Vanessa's support system, including Max, Vanessa reveals that Max kissed her, leaving her confused about their relationship. Yulisa urges her to confront her feelings, but Vanessa remains uncertain, unsure if she and Max can stay just friends. At Ben's office, Max confides in his brother, fearing he's lost Vanessa for good after following Ben's advice, which backfired. Max reveals that Vanessa wants to forget about their kiss, leaving him convinced she has no feelings for him. Ben reassures Max that Vanessa's lack of clear rejection might not mean she's without feelings, and advises him to ask Vanessa directly if she wants him out of her life. Though Max is afraid of the answers, Ben encourages him to confront the truth rather than dwell in uncertainty. At the courthouse, Yvette Mitchell asks her mother, Wanda, to keep quiet about her connection with Assistant DA Owen Grant, regardless of the trial's outcome. Wanda reassures Yvette that her father, Udell, will keep her out of prison. Inside the courtroom, Udell pleads for leniency, and Yvette reads an apology letter. Owen agrees to a fine and community service for Yvette instead of prison, angering Heidi. Heidi then threatens Owen, eager to see the Mitchell family fall apart. After the sentencing, Heidi hints at Owen's feelings for Wanda, leaving Udell confused and Wanda denying any knowledge. Vivian meets with Ben, who is ready to sign over his shares of Russo Jewelers. Before he does, Vivian questions if he's sure about this decision. Ben reassures his aunt, saying it's his way of righting the wrongs their family committed against her. Despite Vivian's reservations, Ben insists he's doing what their grandparents failed to do. After some back and forth about Lorenzo's potential reaction to the truth and Clarice's role in keeping them apart, Ben signs over half of his shares to Vivian. With this new power, Vivian steels herself to confront Clarice at the Labor Day picnic. Isidore Russo confronts Terry at her office, questioning why she's not in court with her son and implying she's spending time with Alan instead. Terry admits she can't stand watching Finnegan protect Kiev from consequences, and Isidore demands she end her affair with Alan immediately. Terry claims she's tried, but Alan won't let go. Isidore insists she hasn't tried hard enough, reminding her that her career and reputation should come first. When Isidore realizes Terry has feelings for Alan, he's disgusted and threatens to expose her involvement in Alan's estrangement from Dante and Martina. After the tense exchange, Terry reluctantly calls Alan to end their affair. At the Mitchell estate, Wanda invites Yvette to join her and Udell at the cemetery to celebrate Elvira's birthday before Yvette's community service. Yvette declines, preferring to focus on her assignment and glad Wanda will spend time with Udell instead of Owen. When Yvette mentions Owen, Wanda asks her not to, and Yvette agrees, saying Owen won't want to associate with their family now. Wanda advises Yvette to focus on school, but Yvette worries that Owen's leniency in court might be his way of winning Wanda's heart. Wanda reassures Yvette that Udell is the one she loves, admitting she regrets her mistake with Owen. Yvette believes her, and Wanda promises to keep their family strong as they embrace. At the courthouse, the Dorvals pray then meet Udell, who encourages Vanessa and JJ to stay hopeful about the restraining order against Kiev. Vanessa is uneasy when she sees Kiev before entering the courtroom. Inside, Udell argues for the restraining order, while Harley pleads for it to be dropped, insisting Kiev needs to get help. The judge ultimately grants the restraining order, enraging Kiev. After the hearing, Kiev insults Harley, blaming her failure on her gender, and storms off. Later, Kiev vents his anger on an incel forum, vowing revenge on Valley Park. Can't get enough of the crazy world of In Times Like These? Then, treat yourself to a binge watch of In Times Like These. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. You're not ready for what's to come, but tune in anyway.